Hi, you're watching Georgia Alert. I'm Becca, and today I'm here with Tini and Marika. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
We'll be speaking about Georgian news, and we'll start with the highlights. Also, you can follow us on Twitter. This is our Twitter page, and yes,
We post every part of our podcast like separately, so you can watch every video on Twitter. So yes, highlight of the week was probably the answers from the West, which has finally been clear. It's from the USA and from the EU. Let's start with EU. Georgia's EU accession process has been stopped, and the EU has frozen 30 million euros in assistance to Georgia. The further measures are also being considered to be taken from the EU, as EU ambassador mentioned it. And according to the ambassador, also the decision to halt Georgia's EU accession process was taken by EU leaders at the last council meeting on July 27th. And he noted that EU leaders are unclear about the true intentions of the current government of Georgia. Alongside with the EU, there has also been from the Germany very clear picture of what they're doing with relationship with Georgia. As ambassador of Germany announced, Germany has decided to stop any new financial commitments to Georgia because they don't know if they should trust the government or no, so they don't want to start any new commitments with Georgian authorities. They will keep student visas, which is very good because lots of Georgian students are, as for now, they live in Germany and they study in Germany. So student visas will be kept. However, any other support to Georgia will be stopped. This was alongside with USA, because USA announced that they will be stopping, not stopping, but postponing the Nobel partner exercise in Georgia. So Germany was supposed to join this exercise as well, so Germany dropped out as well. It was supposed to be held on July 25th, from July 25th till August 6th. So this was stopped as well from the USA. So what do you guys think about those steps from the EU and the USA?
Yes, definitely this week it's been a big news, this freezing of 30 million funds, which was directly for the Georgian government. As the public knows, Georgia is benefiting from EU and generally Western aid. It's been a huge help to develop our country, the infrastructure, the Georgian institutions. We have received billions of dollars from the West, and since the change of the course of the direction from the Georgian government, of course the reaction from the West has been that firstly they have cut off the funding which was directly for the Georgian government to use to develop the institution of Georgian leadership, but our leadership is taking this as normal. They are not making a big deal out of this, as if this is business as usual, but this is new. This is a big reaction already from the West, and this is just the beginning. There are sanctions coming also, and yes, we are seeing the change of from partners to basically foreigners. They are the West is leaving Georgia. Hopefully the CSOs will remain, and they will keep monitoring the elections. They will keep helping our democracy. But when it comes to the Georgian leadership, they are not communicating with them anymore. They have made their points very clearly. No matter how much the ruling party denies this, this is already brought as a daylight, and we are witnessing change in the politics, in international relations when it comes to Georgia, but I believe this is temporary. As soon as we overcome this situation that the government has created, as soon as we have the new elections and we elect the new leaders, we will continue our friendship with the Western world. We will continue building more bridges with the European Union, and it is the will of the people that Georgia becomes part of the European Union by 2030, as it's announced that the new ascension will happen by 2030, and Georgia alongside Ukraine and Moldova will become the member of EU. This is the will of the people. This has been, a lot of work has been gone into this process. Many generations have yearned for this, and no matter what the current leadership is doing, this is temporary. They are temporary people, and the will of the Georgian people will remain. And I believe EU is just peddling this change in Georgia, because yes, they cannot be friends with somebody who is calling them a global war party and this sort of rhetoric, which is and yes, this will change, but it is sad to see that at the moment we are not receiving the funds. Well, these funds would go towards developing the Georgian institutions, but yes, this is the first step. Also, it's a remorseful fact that US is no longer conducting military trainings for our army. Our army has very much relied on the US trainings, the NATO missions, our participation in the missions. We have been a constant member for these missions over the years, and this is what's developing our military force, basically. Those are the people who are going to protect Georgia if need be. So cutting off this military training, it's a big red alarm for Georgia, and we are seeing clearly what is the international relationship looks like. So yes, a change will sort of follow all of this process. I believe that people will see what is the reality, and they will stand and reaffirm their choice on the 26th of October in the new elections, and I'm sure we will choose to remain the partners with US and Western world, and we will continue this program. As you say, it was postponed. It is postponed until...
And even when you mentioned the funds that the assistance to Georgian institutions will be stopped, you also mentioned that even though these funds will be stopped from European Peace Facility, this kind of amounts of funds will be diminished to the civil society, which already means that
diverted.
Which already means that we'll somehow get some kind of assistance from the EU still, but it will be to civil society and not the governmental organizations.
That's good. So reallocating funds from the government to the civil society, that's right.
Yes, so the EU ambassador said that these funds would be, maybe not these particular funds, but in general, like EU assistance would be redirected more towards the civil society and also the electoral process and so on, and that's great, of course. However, now the Georgian Dream propaganda is saying that the European Union is taking money away from the Georgian army and giving it to this destructive NGOs and so on. So they are, then they added that it's okay, Georgian army will be well equipped and they will have everything they need. But it's sad to see the EU's understanding of democracy and attitude towards Georgia. So they are trying to portray now that the European Union is an obstacle to Georgia's army and strengthening of Georgia's statehood, and that they are like funding evil forces within Georgia, which they say to be the NGOs. Anyway, Yes, so this EU fund to Georgian army, which encompassed some non-lethal equipment, supplies and services that will be suspended for now, as well as the Noble Partner exercises of the United States. The first year that the drills took place was 2015, and I remember that it was quite a big deal that the United States agreed to hold these drills in Georgia, because the country is partially occupied by Russia. It's also quite remote and cut off from lots of Western military infrastructure, despite Turkey being the NATO member. So it was a lot of logistical and material resources that has been put into this Noble Partner drills. First it was bilateral, and then it became multinational. And by the way, it's the only drills as far as I know. As far as I know, we cannot replace it or with other drills, or there are no overlaps with other drills, because these are the main ones that concentrate on actual conventional war drills and conventional self-defense drills, and also they have been having exercises in potential how much time and resources it would take for our partners to reach Georgia in case of an attack, potentially, which is not done under the umbrella of other drills and exercises. So these are not possible to immediately be replaced by Georgia, and nor ever, because if Georgia just cuts itself off the West, then of course Russia and China will not be bothered to strengthen Georgia's self-defense capabilities, definitely. And one more thing, while we are having this drill suspended, well, not stopped, but postponed indefinitely, because of the United States said that it's because of the Georgian Dream, accusing the US and our partners of dragging Georgia into a second front with Russia, and so on. At the same time, Armenia is having its first drills in Armenia with US participation, first bilateral drills. So this is one more piece of the puzzle of how things changed in the South Caucasus, and the plot twist of Georgia suddenly becoming basically a Russian influence country, and Armenia going west. Yes, well, in this regard, for now, for Georgians, it's an added hope that since the West is investing that much into Armenia, and we are the only connection of Armenia to the West, basically, because they have borders closed with Turkey. Then maybe more attention, even more attention, will be paid to us, because Armenia's future also depends on what happens in Georgia. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So we can not clearly say that even though it's the West's decisions on Georgia, it's very hard for Georgian citizens, because we lose our good things that we had from the EU and from especially NATO and USA. They did a lot in Georgia on military exercises and different drills that were happening in Georgia, and Georgian army were very happy that they could experience this kind of things, which was not possible before. So when the USA entered Georgia like that, when they started exercises and drills, this Georgian military became very qualified and were one of the top people who served in Afghanistan, actually. There were lots of Georgians who served there. So we don't want to lose this kind of good things and benefits from the EU. However, we really need EU's and USA's hard steps from them, so that Georgian Dream can experience what it's like to be treated from the USA and EU when you treat them like that, especially with false accusations. Whenever they said that USA, and now they say that Georgian government officials say that the things that they have said, they are saying that no, we didn't say that, but they were very clear that USA, they're the ones who are organizing revolution in Georgia. They're the ones who want system change in Georgia, and they're organizing all of those things with Maidan. They wanted Maidan in Georgia. That's what Georgian government says. So after all of these accusations, it's not surprising that we get reactions from the USA and from the EU, and that it might get even worse. Other than that, there are some things happening in Georgia as well with our domestic issues. Since the elections is coming up, we had Georgian opposition parties had a declaration that they would, it was a document that they would have some kind of configuration figured out by 8th of July. And by 8th of July, actually on 8th of July, there was the first configuration that we saw. It was UNM, Strategy Armashenebeli, and two other political party members. They have announced a political platform, which is not UNM anymore. It's called Unity to Save Georgia. And UNM really reformed its own party to a new people. They are having new people from different sectors, like education sector. From education sector, we see Gia Japaridze, who is a lecturer at the University of Georgia, and he's the new face to Georgian politics. He has just been a lecturer, and for now he stepped into the politics, and we have different people as well who are activists, who have been very on the first lines during the Russian law protests, and they are Gen Z, and they stepped into politics with UNM as well. So it was for me, it was like very good picture what I saw on July 8th, because I saw that UNM transformed into a new unity which has new faces, and this can probably somehow can give us very good consequences from UNM. So at the end of July 8th, there has also been a new unity, but they announced it on July 9th. It was Achali party, Drua party, and Girchi More Freedom, and they on July 9th these political parties announced their decision to post a joint election list for the parliamentary elections in October. Yes, this was kind of two parts of Georgian opposition, which we saw that they have already united, and they are going to work together on the elections. There is also a party Lelo, which has not joined any unity yet. However, Achali, Girchi More Freedom, and Drua, they are saying that there were minor differences with Lelo. However, they are still looking forward to the collaboration with them as well.
Yes, so it's good news that we already have some alliances within the opposition, the UNM and Strategy Builder, which now also added many new faces, and I believe that will have a really positive effect electorally, as well as within in the party democracy, because in Georgia in general a party democracy within political parties has usually been an issue in the last 30 years, and ever since we restored independence. And it doesn't concern any single party. It's a just general thing in Georgian politics. And also Achali DROA and Girchi More Freedom, which is another alliance for now. I mean, that alliance is solid, but other parties are also welcome to join, and the doors are open for everyone who is pro-Western and who shares our foundational mission and respect for Georgia's European future. Lelo, yes, again, the doors are open for them. There have been some minor differences. Then there's Gacharia's party for Georgia. For now, they are announcing that they will be running alone. For now, it seems that Lelo will also be running alone, but that is a little risky because both of the parties are around 5%, the threshold, but it would be very naive to think that in Georgia, under the Georgian Dreams Russian-style state capture, any party that is somewhere around the threshold will be allowed to actually pass the threshold. So since the elections based on our both the previous experiences as well as the current context, we expected the elections to be heavily manipulated. So that is why we need alliances, so that not a single pro-Western vote is lost. Because, for example, in 2016, up to 20% of votes have been basically lost, because 20% of votes went to parties that could not pass the threshold of 5%, and then the lost votes they benefit the party that gets the most votes, and in this case it's expected to be the Georgian Dream. They should not, and I mean, like, under objective circumstances, they will not and should not have a majority, but they will probably be a first place party. Like in Poland, the ruling party got into the first place, but overall the opposition alliance had more votes and more seats. Yeah, that's the thing, and well, we are hoping that there's still some time left until elections, and hopefully other parties who understand why alliances are needed, they will make some alliances of their own. And again, our doors are open also to everyone which is a pro-Western party and cares about Georgia's integration into NATO and the European Union. Yeah.
Certainly, the unity, this move, it has been coming along for some time now. There's been talks since the signing of the President's Charter. Several parties have agreed on certain conditions. The main point from this agreement is that they all want change of leadership, and they are calling themselves pro-Western parties, the parties who recognize that the current leadership is driving the country away from the European aspirations, and we want to change this, basically. Also, a big difference between the leadership and the opposition is that leadership believes that our self-defense and foreign politics should be based around non-irritation of Russia, as if that would protect Georgia. This has been tried and failed multiple times. History has proven this to be not effective. This approach of not irritating a conqueror. Russia is basically, the whole territory consists of other countries. Russia alone is a small country, and it has grown itself by consuming other countries. That's what they do. That's what they're attacking neighbors. It's been their mode for centuries now. And to think that not irritating a conqueror would somehow protect your country is childish. But apart from the governmental perspective, they have their own business interests at heart, and of course they want to remain friends with the oligarchs and people which they have made money with, and they are personally associated with Russian people, the oligarchs and such, and of course they want to play friendly with them. So this is against the interest of Georgia. the people recognize this fact, and the opposition recognizes this fact, and some parties have already united. I hope more parties will add on to this unity, because our current legislation of elections, the electoral legislation, basically leaves no other room other than unity. There is a 5% threshold, and 5% when it comes to votes, it's about 100,000 votes. They take away the votes of the parties who do not qualify for the purpose of this threshold. So they're basically guaranteeing themselves a victory even though they are losing the election. They have set up the system this way. So realizing this, realizing also what is at stake here, that the future of Georgia, the physical existence basically, is at stake, we need to recognize that there is only one option: to unite, to set aside all the ideological differences, all the personal reasons, and we need to unite as much parties together as it's possible. This has also been the way of change in Georgian history. In the previous years, as experience shows, the ruling party, the current ruling party, it came into power by uniting the opposition. Also previously, when we had another change in leadership in 2003, there was also a unity in the opposition. So this theme of unity is a precursor of change, and it's a tried and proven method that works actually. So we need to take into consideration all of these facts, that this works, this unity works. It's also, according to the polls, to the statistics, this is also the way to go with this election, to unite as much pro-Western countries under one party, under one domain as possible. We are facing, let's be honest, this is not a regular election. It's not going to be normal circumstances. There will be tension on the election polls day, and yes, we need to unite resources to protect the votes on the actual places. So this unity is not just unity of one like party or something like this, but this is also uniting resources, uniting power to overpower basically a criminal organization which is trying to overtake the entire country. They've been in power for more than 12 years. This has gone beyond the scopes of democracy already, and they're not planning to stop at this. They want to basically remain in power as long as the people allow them. So this has to stop, and yes, unity is the way. Also, this pro-Western idea is that Georgia should, on the contrary, we should not irritate Russia or something like this, but we should develop. We should not look at what Russia does, we should develop our country. And developing our country means being in alliance with the Western countries who have been helpful towards our economy, towards our military systems, and they've been helping us develop. So we should maintain this development and build on top of this. That's the idea of being a pro-Western party, that yes, we need alliances with the West, and we need this relationship to continue. So that's what Georgia will have to decide on the 26th of October this year.
Yeah, you've mentioned very right that there should be a big unity with political parties. However, we've seen that there are some differences on this idea of how many basket of votes will there be. And some of the political analysts think that if there are like 2 or 3 different opposition unities, this might be even more helpful for Georgian citizens than... I don't know personally if this is right. However, there is some kind of talks about it as well, that some people think that it's better to show our voters differences, and they can choose from 3 different opposition unities who they trust the most. Because we know that Georgian politics is very messed up, and in Georgian politics there has always been same old faces, and it's the first elections when Georgian political parties can show that they can really rule this country on pro-Western values and not pro-Russian values. So Georgian voters really need to see the trust in Georgian political parties. So even though if there might be not a big unity, I really hope that there will be a big unity by elections. However, if there is not such kind of circumstances, then we can explain to our voters that even though there are different unities, these unities can somehow earn your trust, so that you don't vote for Georgian Dream.
Yes, definitely. And to speak about our current unity with Ahali, so it's the three of us, Girchi, More Freedom, Droa, and Ahali. Ahali in Georgian means new. Girchi means pine cone, by the way, so the party's name is pine cone. And Droa means it's time. Tini and Becca are from Girchi More Freedom Party, and I'm from Droa, and I must say that well, according to most polls, our alliance has been the most popular among young people. I mean Droa and Girchi More Freedom, because that's how we've been polling until now. And Ahali also has quite a big base of young activists. So I suppose that the three of us should be the most popular alliance among young people, so it's only logical. So we have great resources and great outreach in that regard, and I suppose that we will be the youth favorite electoral entity in these elections, and we should work hard on mobilizing even more. Particularly in the recent few months, Zurab Girchi Japaridze, the leader of Girchi More Freedom, has emerged as quite popular among young people, and I would like to hear from actually Tini and Becca why they chose to be members of Girchi More Freedom.
We know Zurab Girchi Japaridze for quite some time now, and I will share my thoughts why I personally trust him and why I think that he is a right choice in all of this situation. First of all, he is a controversial figure in politics, in Georgian politics. He has been acting for more than 10 years already. He's been very active, he's been very brave, and he's not shy of being controversial. And I just want to share one thing about him which he stands out from every other politician. He has been a member of the parliament twice, and he has left the parliament twice on his own accord. No other politician basically has given up power as many times as he has. He is not in politics for the sake of power, and he's not this type of person as we are used to see in Georgian politics. Anybody who manages to get together enough votes to get inside the parliament or any type of institution, they want to stay there forever. They want to remain in the position of power until death, basically. But he is not a traditionalist in this sense. He has given up power many times, and he has always been working with the Western organizations. His criminal actions against certain activist groups. He has been like a role model who just serves people in this idea, and he has already gathered up enough reputation on his own over these years that many people trust him. Many young, especially young generation, they favor Zurab Girchi Japaridze. He is also he knows his colleagues, who the other actors who are playing. He understands what other people want, and Girchi and Joa have been aligned for quite some time now. They have found common ground on many key issues, and yes, I remember Zurab Girchi Japaridze was a libertarian politician who was not that popular as he is today, and he has remained ever since loyal to his own beliefs. He has never changed his beliefs when it comes to libertarianism. He has always advocated for private property, individual liberties, and many groups, not just libertarians. He appeals to many groups, different kind of people. It does not matter whether somebody is even socialist like him, because everybody recognizes that he is a person who is not in the politics for his own benefit, for wealth or accumulation of wealth or power or fame. None of this interests him. He actually wants to remain in Georgia. He wants to raise his children here. He wants to help build this country. That's what I think is reality. That's what his actions have. I want the Western world to recognize new leaders of our community, to speak with the actual representatives who represent the will of the people. Like President has been one of such actors, and it's safe to say that Zurab Girchi Japaridze is also another political actor who represents a very big number of Georgian people. So yes, they can certainly open up conversations with him, and I'm sure he will be in the future Parliament of Georgia, one which we will elect on this 26th, and he will be a big part of it. And yes, I would like to see Western world in communication with Zurab Girchi Japaridze more closely. What can you share?
As for me, my dream is to see Zurab Girchi Japaridze in the EU, because I think that he can bring very new and different perspective to the EU at the national level. So I think that this would be very fun, and EU would love Zurab Girchi Japaridze. As for Zurab, I would more like to talk about not Zura, but the product he created, Girchi More Freedom pine cone. It's in Georgian, it's called pine cone. And the day he decided to establish political party, his ideology was libertarianism, and whatever Becca talked about, he has this kind of skills and ideas because he's libertarian. So I can't imagine any libertarian politician who wants the whole power and who wants to remain the power. So I think the most important thing Zurab has done is creating this base of supporters who I'm sure lots of people in Georgia didn't really know what was libertarianism and what was liberalism before Zurab created a political party, because the way he started everything was youth who were like 16, 17, 14, even 14. There are people in our party who have joined us when they were 13 and 14. And it was like an educational campaign, and us, like the people who represent youth in Georgia, and not just youth, and people who really are in support of the Western values and who really would like to do anything for it. So we're rebellious, and we're very controversial as well, because we believe in things that most of the people in Georgia don't, but we think that post-Soviet country needs lots of harsh reforms in order to get out of post-Sovietism and to step into the democratic country. At last, I would like to say that Zurab Girchi Japaridze's move to step to join with DRUA was very important as well, because that's what led us to another unity which is happening right now with Ahali. So he made the decision, very good decision when it was made, and now we're emerging with these two political parties together. And I'm sure that DRUA as well and Elene Khoshtaria as well share the same values as Zurab has, and that's why this kind of unity is very popular amongst youth especially.
Yeah, as we said, our alliance is now the most popular among young people in Georgia, and that's very important, and that's probably one of the key aspects why we should have quite a good platform of communication with our foreign partners as well. Well, I'm from DRUA, unlike Tini and Becca. So from afar, to me, Girchi, more freedom, always seemed quite trustworthy and unorthodox in a good sense. So it's not only just about their ideology, it's also about your methodology of how you express things, and it's visible that you are anti-establishment, but also within democratic and constitutional frames, and very creative and original. So when I went to DRUA, I actually did not know Elene Khoshtaria personally. I knew other people there, so I knew that the people that I've been friends with, I knew their opinions and their principles and everything. So I saw myself there with people I trusted, and I also liked Elene Khoshtaria from afar very much. And what I liked in her is that she always seemed and is very principled and very determined. I always saw her as someone with exceptional integrity and willpower and determination. And one of the things that our two parties have in common is a good record of non-cooperation with the Georgian dream, while most other political forces in Georgia have been cooperating to some degree, not out of collaboration, of course, but out of some sort of different views about necessity to cooperate with them for the benefit of Georgia. DRUA and Girchi, more freedom. We've never compromised, and DRUA did not even DRUA never signed anything, like not even the Charles Michel agreement back in 2021. Yes, for me, Elene is really like a female warrior who can like overcome any obstacle on her way with the vision of bright future Georgia. And she also has 4 children, and she's married, and I honestly don't know how she just manages everything. And by the way, whenever I've had some private problems or something, I always looked up to her and sought her advice, and she always gave me really, really good advices. So yes, I think also, and other people in our parties are quite same in terms of integrity and determination. And I never, like, sometimes people ask me about DRUA. Well, I can speak only on behalf of DRUA in that regard, like, how are decisions made in your party? Is it democratic or not? And I'm like, well, usually we don't really have much differences in opinions within the party, because for some reason we're naturally
not the same in Girchi.
Not the same in Girchi that much. In DRUA, somehow it always naturally happens that we end up on one same spectrum of opinions, maybe with a different intensity, but same spectrum of opinions. And yes, but like still decision making is quite democratic, because like we don't take any decisions. Helen doesn't take any decisions without without talking it out with all members of the party, and we're quite a small party. So, so yes, like if there's something to discuss, some big decision to make, if we have some concerns, first we are addressing those concerns, and then when we talk it out, I never remember us not finding a common ground, even when we do have differences, which is very, very, very rare in Droa. So yes, and for me, it's been very important to be in an environment where I don't have to compromise with my conscience or with my views and values just to be in politics. And Droa is extremely comfortable for me in that regard. And alliance with Girchi has also been very, very comfortable because we have a lot of overlap, both in terms of ideology and also our electorate is quite overlapping, and I have never had any personal problems with the Girchi's leadership. I even voted for Girchi before Droa was founded at all. So yeah, I'm very sympathetic towards Zurab. And I haven't yet worked with Ahali. We are just beginning to cooperate, but based on the people that I know who have joined Ahali, I'm quite sure that it must be a productive and very an alliance of mutual respect and so on.
Yeah. Now,
I will
actually,
add
what you
one thing on top of it. I think this unity is just key, and everyone who will be left out of this unity, it does not matter how many unity fronts will have, 1, 2 or more. I look at this way, that people who choose to battle alone in this whole process, they either do not see the reality, or because of their own egos, which blinds people, and yes, they have misguided opinions about Georgia itself, or they are in alliance with the ruling party. That simply there is no other option, because it has no alternative at this point. We know what the situation will be like in October. We know what is the expectations. We know the reality, what is now, and we know the system. The rules of the elections is obvious, and there is no other way to just unite with as many parties as possible, and we should find just minimal common grounds, which is that the country should go back to the Western road. That is the minimum requirement for this unity, I think, and there might be other ideological parties within this unity. It does not matter at this point. Also, this unity has in mind that after we have successfully gone through this process of these elections, then we will decide maybe on a new election, or how to better express our ideological differences, and then there will be some moment and some time where our political individual goals will be realized. And yes, sure, I think this is the best option for Georgia at the moment. And also, I look at, I want to add on top of Zurab's character that he's a very humble person. As we can see, we are used to him seeing in just regular dress, shirts, hoodies,
everyone is in suits, and Zura is in a hoodie always.
He just appears in suits when it comes to international meetings and stuff like this.
Even there he wears a cap.
Yes, on conferences he's been known to just appear in caps. He is a person who does not put up a false front. He does not lie, and people like this about him, that he is just direct and he does not play another character. I am a lawyer, I like suits. He is a regular person who understands politics, reality, and he has been brave enough to put himself out there in many protests, in many public events, he has been the center of the attention. So that's how he got up to here. Also, he is a smart individual when it comes to economy. People recognize this about him, and he was in the positions where he was in charge of political leadership of certain parties because he has smart ideas how to progress and develop. And I think Georgia needs these kind of individuals who have some understanding of reality, who are also brave, and who can give up power, which is crucial at this moment. The whole situation right now, why the West suddenly has become the enemy, is that the current leadership, they just don't want to give up the power. So that's the issue. And I think leaders like Zurab, Georgia would benefit a lot from such individuals, because he has already proven himself that he is not attached to power, and he's just a regular person, a father with children who wants to remain in this country and not go to immigration, and to live in a decent, better republic, free, independent republic. So I think that's also the case with Troa leadership.
Yeah,
Yes,
well, I think
they want to stay here and live within this country. But yes, we know what the leadership wants, the current leadership, yes.
Yeah, if I may just add one thing. Previously you mentioned that Girchi, More Freedom, didn't enter the parliament, and same with Drua, the 2020 convocation of the parliament, which we believe was rigged. But yeah, anyway, so initially the opposition declared that everyone would be boycotting the parliament. Then to a degree, yeah, of course, I understand the reasoning of others, because it's important to a degree to have opposition in the parliament, also for the sake of communication with the Western partners. But nevertheless, my instinct has always been that we should be out and not legitimize this parliament for the Georgian dream, because we believed, both of our parties, that it would be like window dressing or whitewashing the Georgian dream, giving them legitimacy that they must not have as a Russian party. So yeah, I think we remained the only two ones who stuck with this decision, and this also underlines that we're not having a hold over power or any seat. And same with our funding. Girchi has been crowdfunded for ages, and currently Drua is also not receiving really any funding. And our teams have been great in that regard, because we are not individually, all of us, I mean, not just leaders, we're not in politics for any money or benefit. It's just these parties have been channels for us to actually contribute to the process and be part of the positive change for Georgia. And for that reason, maybe we are not, maybe we're unable to have same outcomes and results as someone with great material resources. But yes, at least it shows that our key factor is motivation and passion for Georgia. Yeah.
I would also love to add that even you mentioned that Georgian politics right now doesn't need the battle of ideologies. It's about one clear vision of the joining EU. However, these three parties kind of surprisingly, but we kind of are assumed by people that we carry some kind of the same ideology, and we've proven that even with Ahali, with Nika Guaramiam. He has also been battling with this regime, and Georgian people know him as the person who served in prison for literally nothing, like literally nothing. He was accused and he was in prison for 1 year for spending his own TV station's money, which was not even
or misappropriation.
Yeah,
of a car,
it was not even from
like
Tavari
Yes.
TV. So Georgian people really admire him about that. And with Elena, I really want to mention also Gavrilov's night, because that was the year when activists and youth have become more interested in politics, because they saw a really bad picture in the parliament. And Elena Khoshtaria she's one of the persons who is associated with that day, because she was the first person to enter the parliament and fight about that in the parliament. So yeah, we kind of like share the same experiences towards battling with Georgian dream. So that's how people may assume us.
Definitely.
Yes, this process has been gradually developing. Some parties found itself on the other side, on the side of Western, pro-Western choice. The government has been gradually stepping into the northern direction. First, you mentioned the night of Gavrilov. Yeah, all of a sudden, we just saw that Russian politicians were inside our parliament giving speeches, and he was seated in the chairman person's seat. And this was a nightmare of a picture for Georgian citizens to see. And this was so unexpected at that time that it just happened in the parliament, and people started to pay attention to the politics at that time, what is going on in the world.
Yeah, that's when people realized they were clearly pro-Russian. Before that, there were like politicians talking about it and no one would believe them. But at that night, it got very clear.
Yeah, there was a huge outcry among people, the protests. I remember Elena Khoshtaria, she was protesting this inside the parliament building. Then, yes, I think this is how Zura and Elena connected.
It was how Drua was born as well, because the people who are now in Drua got gathered around Elena, especially, particularly at this Gavrilov's night episode. And yes, I just wanted to add something and I actually forgot. Oh yes, the Gavrilov's night, Tini is right that people began realizing at that time that they are pro-Russians, the government. However, it consolidated now, finally. It took 5 years to consolidate this opinion. And now in April, when they brought this Russian law, the foreign agents law, back from the dead again, this is when it finally got consolidated, because even last year in March, when we battled this law and we gave a real punch back to the government, it was a no to Russian law, but it wasn't really no to Russian government for most people. Like, the opinion was split whether we should continue protests against the government as a whole or not. So they backed off just in time before entire public could get behind the idea of keeping the protests ongoing until the government resigned last year. It's very important to note that back in 2019, the Gavrilov's night, the only way that the government dispersed the protests is by promising fully proportional elections for 2020 elections, and people went home. They were thinking, okay, next year we will be unseating this government. But then they backtracked and ditched us on their own promise, and they did not give us a fully proportional elections. Then it took rounds of negotiations, including the United States, the European Union, and other top diplomats, to somehow negotiate at least a bigger share of proportional vote and a smaller share of majoritarian single constituency votes. And I now remember that in those days of the protest, when the Bidzina Ivanishvili, the oligarch himself, promised fully proportional elections, and some guy asked in a group, in a Facebook group, so we're just trusting these guys without any guarantees, and we're trusting that they will actually fulfill the promise of fully proportional elections. And the comments, they were like, oh, how could they ditch so many people, and it's just unthinkable. So yeah, the Georgian Dream, they are classic Russians in their playbook, and they just like do a little bit of tactical backtracking to calm the situation, and then they come back again with a bigger force. So they do one step back, 2 steps forward, and they've been like playing with the society for way too long this time. And by the way, and now there have been talks that maybe the Georgian Dream wanted to amend the foreign agents law to some degree so that it would be somehow perceived as less draconian by the society and our foreign partners as well. It was supposed to trick both in domestic and foreign audiences, and to like make it look like the Georgian Dream is still somehow democratic and accountable to people. But the president's veto really prevented that scenario, and I'm really grateful to her in that regard, because she didn't give any comments in the veto. She didn't give any content-based comments. So after that, it was impossible for them to do any amendments. They could either withdraw the law completely or adopt the law completely as it was, and face all responsibility and consequences of going fully hardcore. And it also opened the way for sanctions against them. Yeah.
When we did away with the majoritarian system of elections, actually at the time it seemed like a step to the right direction, but actually it gave more opportunities to the ruling party, because now all they have to do is basically organize one election, one partisan election, and based on this one election, the whole fate of the country is decided. Just one election. And that majoritarian system, in idea, it is meant to elect leaders from the different groups, different parts of the world. Like it's meant for a decentralized system of parliament. If you have a bicameral system of parliament, 2 like Senate and yes.
Yeah, but we don't have that. So in Georgian reality,
that's the actually what we need. We need 2 levels of system in the parliament to somehow limit the power of parliament within itself. That would give us, the country, a better situation in politics if we take away the full authority of, I think basically Parliament is in control of the whole country.
Yes.
But it's not doing its job in monitoring the government. Government is responsible to the Parliament, but every time the Prime Minister has appeared in the Parliament, there has been like a beating up of parliamentary members, the like violence from the side of government. Actually, it's not that they are responsible to the Parliament. They cannot fulfill this role, because the government is the actual face, and the people who actually do the reforms, do the actual steps, do the work, they get their hands dirty when it comes to executing the laws and everything, and Parliament is there just to protect their authority. They're not the main actors, but it's on paper they are the main actors. And if we in the future somehow split this Parliament into 2 levels, that would bring us closer to the Western type of leadership, to divide the power, and maybe at that time we might need to implement another election as well. One election should not decide the entire fate of the people.
Especially that now we don't have even presidential elections anymore, so we only have one election.
Exactly.
Yes.
And on top of that, President Zurabishvili is, according to this current legislation, the last president elected. Afterwards, after October's election, the Parliament will appoint They like to say elect, but it's actually appointed.
The parliament and the local government
local
together,
government.
but
It will be like
it's all Georgian
300 people who will be voting.
Yes.
I mean, hopefully it's not, sorry, interrupting, hopefully it's not Georgian Dream anymore, but it was meant to be all Georgian Dream when this was adopted.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's their idea.
Yes.
And we actually have seen that for this president, the people actually elected the right president. Because, yes.
Actually, yes, I did not vote for her, and it was the best, how to say, for the first time I'm happy that something I didn't vote for, someone I didn't vote for is elected.
Yeah, actually one of the comedian from Georgia, he was recorded before the presidential elections, and he was asked by the TV journalists, what do you think about Zurabishvili? And he was like, I think that she will be the biggest threat to Georgian Dream. And now I saw this from like
who was it?
It was Girchi.
Oh really?
Yeah, and he was like, back then he said that it was going to be the threat, and yeah, it was the biggest threat. And as I liked Pekka's perspective from the last Georgia alert that we had, that Georgian Dream saw a woman who can clearly say no to Georgian Dream, and probably Georgian Dream men who are from their party, they're more submissive, and they can do whatever the ruler wants to do. So they kind of saw the threat in Salome Zurabishvili, and probably in women too, because
So funny
they're
that-
strong and independent.
Yes, she was the candidate of the ruling party, and in the end, it turns out that yes, she is not
Yeah, this
their woman.
yeah, this veto
She-
thing
she
she
chose
really
people,
not
yes.
just the veto, but even looking at just this case, she really cornered them. And yeah, well, we saw the contrast in reactions towards her and towards the government at the football celebration. It was, I was there, and I must admit that I have never seen such immediate contrast in public reactions, like heavy booing of the prime minister, and then suddenly, like, president appeared on the screen, because I was standing where we couldn't see the stage, and yeah, the crowds went absolutely wild, and I was so glad that Kopachice would be like seeing that contrast himself standing there.
Of course, because president was fighting alongside with these regular people was all of these months now,
Yes.
since these protests against the Russian law, and Kopachice was on the other side actually.
Stealing our
yes.
future. Yeah.
And he was the poster boy for all of this. They appointed
Yes.
him as a prime minister. I even thought maybe they are doing this as a plan, as a strategy to maybe appoint him, and he will take responsibility for all of this, and maybe then they would change him
Too late
to
now.
create an illusion of change.
Yeah.
And this might have been a strategy, but
Yes.
that would not help them. I
Yes,
think
that's-
this is clearly all of them are standing behind this policy now. They have already went all in on this decision, and sadly, they have gone down this road. But yeah, president has chosen the side of people, and definitely we have seen that people also favor her, and that's a good twist.
Let's see what's going to happen to the opposition parties, and let's hope for the even bigger unity from the opposition parties. We had one more news about Georgia. It's about Russian intelligence service, actually, who has announced on July 9th, the press office of the Foreign Intelligence Service of the Russian Federation claimed that there is a determined attitude in Washington to achieve a change of government in Georgia, here in Georgia, following the upcoming parliamentary elections on October 26th this year. So they're accusing USA, Biden administration also for developing an extensive informative campaign to discredit Georgia's ruling party. The main plot lines of the fabricated scenario, crafted in the best Hollywood traditions, have become known, with the typical anti-Russian sentiment of the White House as it biases its propaganda campaign to plan to center a non-sensational exposure, blaming Russia for all the Georgian troubles, the statement said from the Russian intelligence service. The Russian intelligence service and authorities also claim that the Georgian president Salome Zurabishvili is poised to play a pivotal role in the stoking anti-governmental statement, and the statement further accused also the American curators of including the Georgian opposition to initiate planning of protests timed to coincide with the upcoming parliamentary elections. So on that day, that exact day, July 9, or after the announcement, U.S. Department of State spokesperson Matthew Miller also gave a feedback about the Russia's statements and allegations. And he said that all of those statements were allegations and completely false and absurd, of course. And whenever I talked about this statement with Georgian political parties and different people from different political parties, they told me as a joke that we wish that USA were planning something here in Georgia.
Exactly.
And exactly like that, the answer to all of this absurd is that we wish. But,
exactly. Yeah, by the way, the United States said that all their partnership programs with Georgia are under review. And about this, our government is fully in line in propaganda with Russia. They both accuse the United States of a revolution and coup scenario.
Same exact
same sentences, yes. And yeah, everyone I know in Georgia, they're like, exactly, I'm praying for the CIA to be actually staging something in Georgia, because please, Uncle Sam, help us. Yes, and so many people also on Twitter joke the same, and sometimes I also want to joke the same. But then I see the propaganda media posters that a DROA member Marika Urdiashvili is advocating for a CIA coup in Georgia, yes, it's just humorous. But I did post that, like, why aren't my CIA bosses telling me that they have a plan to overthrow the government in Georgia? I wouldn't worry this much, but probably, hopefully, they are not telling me only to keep me, like, motivated in worry and, like, so that I don't relax, you know. Otherwise, it's not cool not to share it with me.
It's actually very simple. When we look at the Russian and U.S. relations, their foreign relations, Russia does not have partners. They are foreign partners. It just occupies other regions and it just forces people into their favorable decisions. The United States has partners. They fund certain programs. They look at us as they're equal. Like, yes, we are partnering up with them, and what Russia offers is just submission. Basically, there is no selling this from the ruling party. There is no easy way to sell this. When Gavrilov came to Georgia, he sat in the chairman's position. He did not sit in the chair meant for guests. This was not done accidentally, I think, and this has also been what the history has shown. The experience has proven that Russia does not look at its neighbors or other countries as equals or as sovereign republics. They want you to submit, basically, and you either comply with them. And yes, of course, this party complies with them because they're used to it also, because their hierarchy is built the same way. They comply with the one leader, and anything that he decrees, it's the law, and they submit. And it's basically it takes a certain characteristic of person to be friends with Russia. And these are the people. They qualify perfectly.
Having Russia as an enemy is bad. Having Russia as a friend is even worse. Because they always ditch their friends. We saw it with Armenia now as well. Yeah.
Yes, when it comes to US, no matter what kind of stories people believe that they organize some wars or coups or Maidan or something like this, they don't need to actually organize any of these events because they are helping countries to develop. They are sending the funds, they are training your military, they are helping the countries build the institutions. Why would a country help you build a democratic institution if that country wants to abolish your government? Why would it help to build the parliament? We have seen just now that EU has cut off the funding which was meant for the government. It was not meant for the people. It was actually meant for the government to develop their own infrastructure and etc. Why would they help you develop your own power than to just destroy you? That's unreasonable. So the reality speaks for itself. The actions speak louder than words. And this propaganda, what the Russians are selling, yes, they are saying that Ukraine is not a real country. It's never been a real country. And it's part of Russia. It has always been like this. Then you have to believe and switch into the matrix mode than to believe what the Russian propaganda says. It takes a very certain individual who likes to obey and submit to disinformation. And people who just have access to internet, they can find the facts for themselves. You can look at the numbers at least. And it's very, very easy to differentiate reality when it comes to Caucasus region, the Georgian politics, the EU-Georgia relations, the Western and Georgian relations, and the Russian and Georgian relations. This is not very complicated, and the majority of people know this. And yes, we have written in the constitution that we want to become members of EU, NATO alliance. This has been part of Georgian people's will since 1995. That's when
centuries, but recently, 95.
That's when the referendum was held, and for this very question was asked to the people: do you want to join the West? And people have said yes. And now, if this government wanted to actually change this course, they should have held a referendum.
They will.
But constitutionally speaking, that's the law.
Yes, if they stay, God forbid, they will definitely hold and rig a referendum, or not hold at all, and remove this constitutional obligation, and maybe even make neutrality a constitutional.
No, but they have already stepped outside of their own constitution.
Yes, of course. Yes.
If they were so confident in their majority, they could have asked the people. This is the situation. They should have explained this. If they really believe that we have better chance with Russia, then explain yourselves. This is the reality. These are the odds, and Russia is offering us this and this. This is the West.
They know that even now. The irony is that even now they have to pretend to be Europeans. They have to keep promising to deliver European integration because they know that it's an overwhelming majority of people want that. So what they're doing is that they're tricking some parts of the society who wants European integration with a lack of understanding how the integration process actually happens, because some people still believe that yes, this government is bringing us towards European Union just with a different route, more dignified route without LGBT, and so on and so on. So it's really ironic that if we had the full clarity, we would have unseated them already. But it's the ambiguity that they bring that helps them. Well, not anymore that much, definitely, but for years it's been their mixed signals that has helped them stay in power. And actually, good job, Georgian people, for being crucified subtly but surely for 12 years and still not getting crucified. So, yeah.
Yes. Last but not least, I think we don't have any news from Georgia left, but we can mention elections in the EU, and not in the EU, also in UK. For the whole Europe, these elections in UK and France has been good and bad also. So from the perspective of the UK, Conservatives in the UK, it's been 14 years since they remained the power and they were in the power, and right now it's the first time that they're losing, and Labour Party have stepped up. But in UK, it's not. It was not about someone winning. It was about Conservatives going home. Like here in Georgia, we have the similar situation. For British people, after the Brexit, it was very hard, and it is still very hard, especially on the economy. Since World War II, UK has not experienced this kind of economical situation that they're facing right now. Even though there were like quite critics, EU has been quite critic of Brexit. UK and Conservative Party, they were saying that they would be even better without EU, but they have proven that their economical situation is getting worse and worse, and people have finally got angry, and they voted for Labour Party and not Conservative Party anymore. So this Labour Party may start relations with the EU, which didn't happen before with Conservative Party. So for the EU, it might be a good news that in the UK Labour Party has won. But in the UK, there are even worse things happening, because it was the second round of elections, and on the second round there was no particular person who won the elections. There were like very minor differences between the leaders of the parties, people were very, very mad at Macron, and the turnout in election was the highest actually in France. People were so mad at Macron that the turnouts was very high, and the main problem here is immigration policy, which has been a very big issue for the EU, and it's very hard, and it's very difficult to do some kind of reform to battle this issue. However, French people proved that they needed a change and they need something different. I personally think that France is in a very bad situation, and EU also, because right-wing populism in EU has become a new cool thing, and it's not affecting Georgia as well very good. Germany, Italy, Austria, they proved the same, where right-wing populists gained even more votes than liberals in the EU. So yeah, for the EU, it's kind of like good and bad news at the same time from this week's elections. However, I hope that French people will soon realize that their only way in the EU is to stay liberal and to stay open to migration politics as well, because EU has really been a heaven for people who left the countries where there was a war. So France especially, and UK, they were the ones who were very welcome towards them. So if there are some kind of crimes and criminals who are associated with migrants, maybe there should be some kind of other kind of reform that will work with that and not close the door entirely.
Yeah, well, the second round of French elections proved quite successful for Macron and his, as people say, his gambit, because actually even before the second round there have been some opinions that I saw on Twitter/X, that it was possible to turn it around by the second round, and that's what Macron was hoping for. So I wasn't too much panicked about it, actually. Although the fact that France had to go through this risk is already extremely alarming, of course. But yes, eventually it turned out all right for France, and the right wing suffered a much bigger defeat than expected. Like some expected that they would win a majority in the parliament. So this is one more lesson for us in Georgia of forming tactical alliances for one big strategic goals. The left wing and the center, they cooperated really well, and some of the like people running for the office, they resigned in favor of another party in different constituencies.
And actually,
yes.
Bambe, one of the football
Bambe,
players, his statements were very crucial for these elections, because, as French people say, they listened to him. He was the one that said that we have like two different forces here, and we need somehow to choose someone from the middle, and that's what people did. So when Georgian people talk about sports not being involved in politics, it's not right. Sport should be very, very involved in politics, and that's what Babe shows us.
Yeah.
Yes, that was the overview of last week's elections, and let's see what's going to happen for the next week in Georgia. Hopefully we'll see some new unities, or not. If not new unities, maybe we'll see some kind of campaigning starting from the opposition already.
Yeah, and we need long-term election observations also from our partners. We should also advance in that regard. Yes.
Thank you everyone for watching us. Please follow our X/Twitter account, and yes, Georgia Alert will remain reporting the news, and it's going to be a hot summer for Georgia.
Definitely.
And yeah, stay tuned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
ladies.
See you next week.
See you next week.